The salt mines of Kryll. 7 were not where I expected to die. I'd survived the Thrace incursion, the Vorath massacre, and a bar fight on Cygnus Station that left 3 mercenaries in the medical bay and me with nothing but a split lip. But here, on this windswept rock at the edge of known space, breathing air that tasted like rust and regret, I was finally out of miracles. My name is Cashinvale, and I was a prisoner of the Xyloth Collective. Not the glorious kind of prisoner you hear about in war stories, the kind who plots daring escapes and leads rebellions. No, I was the other kind, the forgotten kind. The kind they threw into a mine shaft and expected to die within the year. 3 months of digging Xyloth crystals under the watchful eyes of our insectoid overseers had reduced me to something barely human. My skin was cracked from the dust. My muscles had turned to wire. My mind had retreated to that quiet place where hope goes to die. The other prisoners, a mix of humans, Xeranthi, and a few species I couldn't name, had stopped talking weeks ago. What was there to say? The Xyloth didn't talk to us either. They didn't need to. They communicated through pheromones and antennae touches, their chitinous bodies clicking and scraping as they moved through the tunnels. To them, we were less than animals. We were tools with expiration dates. The day everything changed started like every other day. The alarm clanged through the tunnels at what passed for dawn on Kryll. 7. I pulled myself from my bunk, a stone shelf with a threadbare mat, and joined the shuffling line toward the mess hall. A bowl of nutrient paste, a cup of recycled water, then into the mines. I was halfway through my shift, my pickaxe striking the crystal-veined rock in a rhythm as automatic as breathing, when the lights went out. Not the mining lights, those were attached to our helmets. I mean every light on the planet. The overhead fixtures in the tunnel. The emergency beacons. Even the glow of the crystals themselves seemed to dim, as if something had reached out and swallowed all illumination in the universe. The screaming started immediately. Prisoners shouted in a dozen languages. The Xyloth overseers chittered in confusion, their antennae waving in the sudden darkness. And then, just as suddenly as it had vanished, the light returned. But everything had changed. She stood at the end of the tunnel, where moments before there had been only solid rock. A girl. No more than 12 or 13 by human reckoning, though something told me human reckoning didn't apply here. Her skin was the color of twilight, deep purple shot through with threads of silver that pulsed with a soft, internal light. Her eyes were large, entirely black, and held depths that made me think of oceans and stars and things too vast for names. Her hair, if it could be called that, was a cascade of fine tendrils that moved as if stirred by a breeze no one else could feel. She was beautiful in the way a supernova is beautiful, terrifying in the way the void between galaxies is terrifying. The Xyloth overseers saw her and froze. Their antennae went rigid. Their mandibles clicked in a pattern I'd never heard before, a pattern that sounded, impossibly, like fear. Then they ran. Every single one of them turned and fled down the tunnels, abandoning their posts, their prisoners, their duty. The other prisoners didn't run. They couldn't. They stood transfixed, staring at the girl as if she were the answer to a question they'd forgotten they'd asked. The girl's gaze swept over the crowd, and I felt it like a physical touch, a warmth, a recognition, a question I didn't understand. Then her eyes found me. She walked forward, her bare feet leaving no prints on the dusty stone. The crowd parted before her like water before a ship's prow. She didn't look at them. She looked only at me. She stopped 3 feet away and studied me with those impossible eyes. I studied her back, because what else could I do? Run? Where would I go? Fight? With what? Then she smiled. It was a child's smile, innocent and bright, and it was the most jarring thing I'd ever seen on an alien face. You, she said. Her voice was music, notes that shouldn't exist, harmonies that made my chest ache. The translator implant in my ear struggled to keep up, rendering her words into halting basic. You are the one. I don't. I started, but she raised a hand and I fell silent. Mother, she called, her voice carrying through the tunnel like a bell. Mother, come see. He's the one. I found him. The air at the end of the tunnel shimmered. It twisted and folded in ways that hurt my eyes to watch. And then, walking through that impossible fold as easily as walking through a door, came the mother. She was taller than the girl and older in ways that had nothing to do with years. Her skin was the same twilight purple, her eyes the same endless black, but where the girl held innocence, the mother held eons. She wore robes of light, literally of light, fabric that shifted and flowed like liquid starlight. And behind her, through the shimmering fold, I caught glimpses of something impossible, spires that reached beyond sight, skies of colors that had no names, beings that moved like thoughts through a cosmic mind. The mother's gaze found me, and I felt myself laid bare. Every lie I'd ever told, every fear I'd ever hidden, every hope I'd ever abandoned. She saw them all and found them neither surprising nor important. This is the one? Her voice was the mother's voice, and it was the voice of galaxies turning, of stars being born and dying. This broken thing? He's not broken, Mother, the girl said, and there was a petulance in her voice that was so utterly childlike it made my heart clench. He's just hurt. There's a difference. There is, the mother agreed. But hurt things heal. Broken things are discarded. Which is he? The girl turned back to me, and for a long moment, she simply looked. I felt her presence in my mind, gentle, curious, utterly without malice. She wandered through my memories like a child exploring a garden. She saw my parents dying in the plague years. She saw my sister's face, the last time I saw it before the raid that took her. She saw every compromise I'd ever made, every corner I'd ever cut, every time I'd chosen survival over honor. And she saw the things I'd never told anyone. The child I'd saved during the Thrace incursion, carrying her through enemy fire to safety. The old Xeranthe I'd shared my last water with on Cygnus Station. The times I'd stood between the weak and those who had hurt them. She saw it all. The good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. Then she smiled again, and this time there were tears in her impossible eyes. He's not broken, Mother, she said softly. He's the one who kept going. He's the one who never stopped trying, even when trying meant nothing. He's the one who still believes, somewhere deep inside, that things can be better. The mother was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded, a gesture so small I almost missed it. You have seen his heart, the mother said. You have judged him worthy. But the choice is not mine, little one. Nor is it yours. The choice is his. The girl turned back to me, and now her eyes were serious, ancient in a way that had nothing to do with years. My name is Lyra, she said. I am the last of my kind's children. We are dying, my people. Our universe is ending. We have searched across infinite realities for someone who could help us survive. And I have searched across infinite hearts for someone who would help us not because they had to, but because they chose to. She gestured to the shimmering fold behind her mother, to the impossible city I could barely glimpse. That is our home. Or it was. In 1,000 years, it will be gone. We can save ourselves. We have the power to escape, to find a new universe, to begin again. But we cannot do it alone. We need someone from outside. Someone who can carry a piece of us forward. Someone who will remember. Why me? I asked, and my voice cracked on the words. I'm nobody. I'm a prisoner in a salt mine. I've spent my whole life running and hiding and barely surviving. I'm not a hero. I'm not even a good person, not really. Lyra stepped closer and reached up to touch my face. Her fingers were warm, and where they touched, I felt something stir, something old and deep and forgotten. You're wrong, she said softly. You're exactly who I've been looking for. Because heroes are easy. Heroes are predictable. They do what they do because they're supposed to. But you do what you do because you choose to. Every time. Even when it costs you. Even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching. She let her hand fall and stepped back. Come with us, she said. Help us survive. And in return, we'll give you something you've never had. What's that? She smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise. A home. I looked past her, through the shimmering fold, at the impossible city in the dying universe. I looked at the mother, ancient and powerful and waiting for my answer. I looked at the other prisoners, still frozen, still watching, still hoping for something they couldn't name. Then I looked at Lyra, at the child who had searched across infinite hearts and found mine worthy. Your mother called me broken, I said. My mother was wrong. Lyra's voice was firm. She's old, and old things forget what it's like to hurt. But I remember. I remember being small and scared and alone. I remember wishing someone would see me, really see me, and choose me anyway. I found you because I was looking for someone who understood. Someone who would see us the same way. I thought about it. About leaving everything I'd ever known. About stepping into a dying universe with beings of impossible power. About carrying their memory forward, being their witness, their historian, their friend. And I thought about staying. About another day in the salt mines. About dying on this rock, forgotten and alone. It wasn't much of a choice. I have conditions, I said. The mother raised an eyebrow. Name them. The other prisoners. They go free. Xyloth releases them, finds them transport, compensates them for their time. And the Xyloth stop using slave labor. Forever. The mother smiled, and it was like watching galaxies align.
Done.
The Xyloth will not refuse us. They cannot. I nodded. Then I'll come. Lyra's face lit up with a joy so pure it made my chest ache. She threw her arms around me in a hug that was startlingly human, startlingly warm. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The mother watched us for a moment, her ancient eyes unreadable. Then she nodded, a gesture of respect this time, and turned toward the shimmering fold. Come, little one. Come, Cashin Vale. There is much to do, and not much time to do it. Lyra took my hand. Her fingers were warm in mine, small and trusting. Together, we walked toward the fold, toward the dying universe and the impossible city and the future I'd never expected to have. At the threshold, I looked back. The other prisoners were beginning to move, beginning to understand that something miraculous had happened. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Some were simply staring, trying to process the impossible thing they'd witnessed. One of them, a Zoranthi woman I'd shared a water ration with during the dark times, caught my eye and raised her hand in a gesture I didn't know. But I understood it. It was gratitude. It was blessing.
It was goodbye.
I raised my hand in return, then turned and stepped through the fold. The last thing I heard from that universe was the sound of the prisoners cheering. The first thing I saw in the new one was a city of light and wonder, spires that touched the sky, beings that moved like thoughts through streets of impossible beauty. And Lyra, still holding my hand, still smiling, looking up at me with those endless black eyes. Welcome home, Cashin, she said. Mother, he's the one, she had said, pointing at me in that salt mine tunnel. And for the first time in my life, I believed her.